Saturday morning, I met with Art Robinson, the candidate in the 4th District of Oregon for Congress. He is challenging incumbent Peter DeFazio and third-party candidate Pacific Green Mike Beilstein. My first question to Robinson was about college students, and was he gaining traction in that demographic?
Well, our message is good for them. I mean, I tend more toward their end of the political scale, but the younger demographic, I think, is pretty much fed up with both parties and the establishment, which is kind of messing up their country. I don't think there's as much enthusiasm on the campus for any of the politicians as one might expect.
This is your third time running against Congressman DeFazio.
Yeah.
How is it in the three-way race with Mike Beilstein, the Pacific Green candidate? Do you think you have an opportunity to cut into that margin of DeFazio's?
Well, Beilstein always takes 1% or 2% away from DeFazio. That's a factor. But the main thing is we're more experienced. We're running a better campaign. Mr. DeFazio's actions are not getting any better. The country's fundamentally suffering under his sort of politics, so the campaign's going a lot better.
I then asked Robinson about education, how that's impacting jobs and preparing people for jobs.
Things we have to think about. One is the systemic change. We've gone from locally controlled schools to sort of one-size-fits-all from Washington. And I think that's not good. I think that the locally controlled schools we had traditionally for centuries basically in this country, and that gave us the best educational system in the world, are better than having bureaucrats from Washington run the schools. So I'd like to see us go back to schools that are more controlled by the communities, the teachers, and the parents. That, however, will take a while. Even if you're right, and even if the country would move back systemically in that way, the 50 million students in K through 12 now will be out of school before you've made most of the change. So there's another factor. What can you do for the 50 million that are there now? And that's when you start talking about merit pay for teachers, charter schools, these things that are small modifications in the system we're using now, which can benefit those students. I think it's fine to fund these schools at the federal, state, and local level, to get taxes from all three areas. One of the advantages of that is it enables you to even out the financial benefit to the student. If he's in a poor community, that community collects few taxes, but state and federal taxes can correct that.
My follow-up question to Robinson was, what role do parents play? Do parents need to be parents?
People talk a lot about that. That's a social problem. We can only provide the best schools possible, and I hope the families will participate. But of course, a parent that's interested in a child's education can't do much about Common Core that's being generated by a federal bureaucrat. If, in fact, the schools were locally controlled, the parent would have the feeling that he could be a part of that, and he'd be more likely to be involved in education. I'm not saying that's the whole problem in the country, but you realize once you disenfranchise that parent, and he's just not part of it and can make no effect on his kid's education, then he's less likely to be involved, except in homework.
My next follow-up question was on graduation rates in Oregon.
Oregon graduation rates are poor. They're worse in Washington, D.C., where Congress controls the schools, but they're poor in Oregon, and that's not good. There again, you have to have a school that's teaching to the student and keeps the student interested. And I'm not telling you the schools are entirely at fault for this change, because we do have social change, but we also have schools that are less and less responsive to the community, to the parents, even to the teachers. The teachers are having a hard time teaching around all these bureaucratic rules. So, and another problem we have, of course, is a lot of the money for education, and I'm not against spending all we spend, doesn't reach the classroom. Because we have giant classes of bureaucracy and so forth now that are in the way. And they take a lot of that money on the way to the classroom. So the classrooms are a little bit underfunded, and they are contaminated by teachers who are being told what to do rather than looking at their students and saying, I want everyone in this class to know how to read, and I know them, the parents know them, we're going to work together and everybody's going to read.
Finally, I asked Robinson what his plans were in the last couple of days before the election.
Well, the next 3 days I'm just walking, talking to voters, mostly businessmen. I've been, the jobs issue is real serious. If we don't solve that, we don't have the prosperity to solve the other problems. And most jobs are generated by small business. That's the way it is. And so I've talked to at least 1,000 small businessmen. I've been going throughout the district talking to all these small businessmen and understanding better and better what they need in order to thrive and start to be able to hire employees again.
In most polls, Robinson is significantly behind Congressman DeFazio, along with Mike Beilstein, Pacific Green. This is Corvallis Tidbits. If you like us, then subscribe to us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.